based on that. So in essence, if they do have controls on the outside, you can look at the temperature and you can look at your pressure value, or whether it's in a vacuum or in a direct pressure or something like that. And that's actually all you do is look at your stuff. There's not much maintenance you do to that, which you yourselves are not going to be doing. But we come out, we do this, and you can pull an oil sample and then submit that for analysis and stuff like that.
Fenced off and locked up by Greystone.
Okay. Okay. That was easy enough. Let's motor control here. Oops. No.
Model 6 motor control centers.
Right.
He's got it.
What did I do? Oh, I just wiped that one out.
Oh, in the trailer.
That's low voltage switchboard.
Motor control.
Oh,
Yeah, low voltage motor control right here, and Model 6 MCC.
Yeah.
There it is. Yeah, that's what it looks like right there. That's what we have, what you have out there. And once again, the biggest thing here, and you've already done it, but you haven't. Have you pulled those buckets out of there?
The bus?
No, buckets.
Oh,
We call
no.
them buckets. They're control
Well, I mean,
units.
I've seen it done. I haven't done it personally.
It's
I've watched contractors do it.
okay. It's very simple. It's very easy. There's nothing difficult about it, to be honest with you. The biggest thing that you need to know is what it looks like. Yeah, of course, they call them control units, buckets or something. They can be, each section can be either standalone or it can be tied together, and it's done by I want to show the pictures of it here. Once again, energizing the pre-obsolete, so we're going over and over to the same things. I'll show it from here. This top part right here is where your bus is. It goes straight across. This section, and of course you'll notice that it's got a division there, and it's got like a raceway here. And that's actually where the cable go in. And these are your buckets. Each one of these are your individual buckets. And they can, depending on the size of the bucket, it's every 3 inches. You can. It actually on the back side of it has a little slot and covers where when you take them out. So you can actually move these control units or these buckets. You can have different size buckets depending on what it is by moving your bottom plate up or down, so you can adjust your opening there. So you can put any bucket anywhere at any given time because of as far as the rating of the bus, it's going to be there. It's going to be able to accommodate that. So we could actually take these buckets from here, those two, and then move them over to where these are at, and move those to the left side or whatever. But all this, like I said, it's interchangeable. So it's nothing, not a big deal, because the ampacity of all this stuff, the total of it, is equal or is taken care of with the bus at the top. Okay. And taking them out is not a problem or an issue. And like I said, they can be standalone. It could be one section by itself. It could be two, or it could be however many you want on there. And it's all done with the busing here at the top. And like I said, each section is 3 inches, and that's how for the actual location of a bucket, they'll say like, if it's section 1, it will say 1A. And if it's 1A, what it's trying to say is it's first section, and it's where the alphabet A starts, so it'd be at the top. If it was like C or D, so you would go 1A, and there's A, and then like I said, every 3 inches is a letter, so it's A, B, C, or something like that. So if it got down to C, it might be down 6 inches or something like the other, so it's a little confusing there, but it's got a little tag on the right side. If you open the door, there's a little deal on there, and it gives you the location on it. But on the drawings or on the books and the specs of these things, it'll actually show you ABC, and it'll show you the actual cutaway, or let you know exactly where each location is at, so you would know what bucket would fit where. The main thing here is, once again, making sure that the interior is and the exterior and everything else, it's clean, you vacuum and so forth. Don't use compressed air. check for any kind of damage that might reduce electrical clearances, the finish of the enclosure, touch-up paint if necessary, replace anything that's corroded, damaged, maintaining the bus bars. You don't, once they're torqued on this stuff also, Jeff was asking me, does he have to go back in there? You really don't have to go back in and re-torque anything. I mean, they've been torqued at the fact, well, when they did the startup.
You hope.
You hope. Now that's one thing that you might want when you first do your first one to make sure. But after that, you've torqued. You don't have to go back and re-torque them because they have these bevel washers, and they're not going to come loose at all. There. That's what I wanted you to be able to see what it looks like.
Yeah.
Okay. See how this is a splice bar right here? That's where you would be checking as far as your connections and making sure that that's tied all the way across. These connections here are actually to the insulator, so those are supports there. But once those are torqued right there, they're not going to come loose at all because they've got those bevel washers and everything else. This is showing you, this is an old type. This is I want to say the series on these. This is a circuit monitors. These are obsolete, actually. They don't make them anymore. When they replace those, what they'll do is send an adapter plate that goes across there, and then they'll put the new circuit monitor in there. Actually the CM 3000, 4000 or so, you know. Or if it's going to be a power meter, then they'll send an adapter plate for the power meter. But those are no longer
That's the
supported.
kind they had in those days.
Say again?
I think there's one of those at Dog River too.
Yeah, there's still some of those around, and they hang around. I mean, they've been around for a while.
I think there's one at Dog River too down there to the left end of the pump control panel.
Schlumberger in Sugar Land, Texas has about 4 or 5. I've gotten calls several times out there, and so somebody goes in there and actually they reprogram it. Somebody's messing with them. Somebody that knows about it, something like that. So they'll go in the electrical room and they'll change the values, the CTs, the CT values and stuff like that, and it's reading erroneous and everything else, and said it's messed up. So I go in there, and that's the first thing I do, because it's reading erroneously and stuff, and voltages are crazy. Go in there and check the parameters. And it's basically the same thing to set it up, you know, as far as it's no different. Okay, examine all the bus bars, incoming lines, okay, all that stuff. Here, controlling, maintaining the control units. The thing I like about these is they have these disconnects. So you've got your control wires coming in here, however many, you could have 8 to 10 wires or however many you got. All you do is pop the tops off and the bottoms stay there. And then all you gotta do is then push them on out to the side of that bucket, and then your 3 T leads,
Right.
and you're done. Some of them might have other like interposing relay wiring over here, something like that or the other, but other than that, with these quick disconnects, you're done. Then you take the little, I call them rabbit ears at the top over there. There might be another one, a locking or a pawl lock, they call it, P-A-W-L, down here at the bottom. You just go counterclockwise to get it out of the way because there's a slot there. And then you just grab it by those cam locks, those ears, pull it back towards you. But the thing is, here, once again, remember, you don't want to do that if this thing is energized, because you're pulling it out. And the same token here, when Jeff talked about when he was replacing that fuse, when you replace these buckets and they've been placed down, and then the barrier on the back has been damaged, you've got to be careful that you don't, those, because they will touch face to face like that, and they're little clips, that if this clip is in the wrong place and it pushes this other clip over here, it can be pushing it, and especially if that inner barrier is messed up, that is broken off, so that insulator is no longer there, you're gonna end up pushing these 2 clips up against over here, this B face, or vice versa to go to C, something like that. It's happened before. That's the main thing that you have to look out for these things when you take them out. When you lay them flat, you should lay them flat with something that'll raise, so where the insulated, that part doesn't hit anything.
Yeah, it hangs over the edge.
Yeah, right, on the edge, because if you do lay it, it's not going to lay flat, it's going to be laying on that insulator itself, on that plastic barrier, and they could break when you're working on it, so I just point that out to you. The other thing that's real good that I love about it is that once you've taken these out, it actually has 4 screws on here, 1, 2, and then 3, and then the other one's on the back over here that hold that bottom plate. If you take the top 2 right here and hold it, because they're countersunk, take those 2 off, that bottom swings out, and man, it opens up all of this back in here. That makes it beautiful to work in. see here it's telling you, oh, another thing, you cannot remove it in the on position because it actually has a cam or a rod that goes through it. So when it's in the on position, it's a safety. Everything that Switchgear has done here, and I like it, is they've made it to where the only way you can remove something out of service is it has to be in the on position. You have to turn it
Yeah,
off.
you can't even open the door
Right, right. So or you can open it. It's got
unless you.
an interlock, but it does have an interlock. It does, but it doesn't have. It actually does have it on the handle,
Yeah.
and you have to know it though to be able to see it. It's got a little white slot on there, screw that you can actually do it, and you do that.
yourself that you know that you're doing
Right.
it.
Well, yeah, because you know what you're doing because you know where it's at. Plus, you know that you're going to go in there to check control voltage, but you still have to be aware that on the line side, excuse me, the load side of that breaker, it's got those 3 wires that go back on top of that contact. That's 480 going directly to the contactor, and of course on the bottom of the contactor, the T-leads is 480 in there, along with that all the control voltage. That's why they try to put that control voltage to the front of you, or those disconnects and everything else, so you don't have to go towards that 480. But you've got to be aware of it. Here's that little pawl I was telling you about. The lockout, release the lock-in device. That's it. The locking pawl that they call it, right there. Here's you disconnect those, push them out to the side, and I call them, like I said, rabbit ears, pull it out. And see, here's what I was talking about, the mechanism to remove it, prevents it if it's in the on position. Another mishap that happens a lot of times with contractors is they'll put these things on there, and one side will catch on the lip, the other one will not when they slide, and so when they push it in, it's going to jam. It's going to be kind of cockeyed a little bit, and depending on which one it is, it's kind of hard to get out afterwards because it's no longer sliding on the rail, it's underneath it. So you're going to have some doing to get out. Now you have to inspect it again to make sure that the back side, because since you had just at a wee angle, you could have broken one of those insulators in the back of it. So that's something to always keep in mind, that if it does get installed bad, pull it all the way back out again, inspect it to make sure that it's good before you go sticking it back in there. Make sure that there was no damage to the internal part of it. This is what I was telling you about. Remove the 2 screws. See how it opens it up really nice? Especially if it's a small, the size 1 or size 2. Yeah, those are hard to work in because you don't have enough room in those things. The ones that are really hard that I don't really like are the little 3-inch, low profile ones. Then those are little mothers. So you have to take those out of there. But the beautiful part about those is once you pull them out, everything is right open at the top and that you can work on them. So you don't have to work that little hole in there, so you have to pull them out. Of course, you can take those, they've got little pins on there that you can take the door off if you need to and everything else. I haven't had any need to take those out of there. These, to get out, to remove, you actually have to take those 4 screws off to get that operator out of the way to be able to pull these wires or even the T-leads off. So that's temporarily what you do on this one. See, you get it out of the way, then you're able to do that. And the same thing here, it's got a little locking pin. On these, when you insert them back in there, be careful or make sure that when you have installed, you're going to hear it and you're able to even see this little, that locking pin that keeps it, that snaps it in there. Because when you take it out, you have to actually push that release to be able to take it out of there. It won't allow you to, even though it's in the off position, there's a little release that actually, allows it to pull it out. Had a contractor in Humboldt, Exxon, where they were, after Hurricane Katrina and everything else, we went in there and they were removing the old ones and putting new ones in, and they were not pushing them all the way in, so they were not setting in. So, and of course they closed the doors and locked the doors, and then they go to turn the handle on, and the handle was a little bit hard. Well, the reason for it is because that pin had gone all the way through. So what was happening is they were destroying and just messing up these operators here. They were all getting bent out of shape and everything else together. So it wasn't, and then of course it wouldn't close right, it wouldn't open right and everything else together. And we were telling them they were not installing properly. Oh yeah, they were, this, that, and the other. Then I showed them, I said, I know you guys weren't doing this. The only reason this thing is bent, and I said, and I know that these weren't bent when we bought them here. So you guys have been out in the field and everything else. And they swore up and down that our equipment was the one that was bad. And I showed them and everything else, and I said, this is what you're doing wrong. And sure enough, they The guy that he argued with me, he was a contractor and everything else, he ended up getting knocked or kicked off the place and everything together because they said, man, you're trying to tell the factory rep about their equipment, that you know that you know more about it than they do. And I just kind of laughed and said, you can say what you want to. I said, I know what's happening and everything else. And we knew because they were brand new buckets, and we know that they're not going to come from the factory like that. You know, they'll come with the factory stuff missing on them, but not damaged because everything is brand new, you know. And that has only occurred because it was installed incorrectly. So that's one thing that you want to make sure that it's installed properly, that it's seated. And the way you do that is once you've installed it in there and you try to pull it without releasing the pin, it shouldn't come back out again. And that's what the one thing they weren't doing. They weren't checking. They were just pushing them in there, closing the doors and locking and everything else. These were union personnel or union contractors and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
you can't fix stupid.
No, you can't. Okay, let's see. Oh, excuse me. I wanted to show you. That's the stuff that I was talking about. See, you can actually see right there the metal here and there. These are the little plastic parts. These things are broken, and then these are exposed, so that can actually touch over here, and you know go between phases and everything else. And those do break or have broken, but they can be replaced. They can be replaced easily. I wouldn't say easily, but I mean they can be replaced. It takes a little doing, and they also there's kind of like a trick to them. I don't know why. You just got to work them just right. You never want to force anything. If it doesn't, for whatever reason, assemble back as easily as it did disassemble, something's wrong. Never force anything, especially if it's like this phenolic plastic or whatever it is, because you're going to break it. Believe me. Don't try to force it. These, right, it's in the trip position and everything else. The same thing here. This is the one that I shared with, and I think I told you, I mean, you probably left and everything else. I said, I do not trust these. If this were down and shown it in the off and lock position, I will not. Once I open that door, I'm going to test to see that component's in it, because I had an incident, and it was an accident actually, an incident, at the wastewater treatment plant in Galveston. We went in to put labels inside these control units because in the size 6, which is great big ones for the drives and stuff like that, for motors and stuff like that actually. If you don't specify that you want the labels on the wires, they normally won't put labeling on the wire, which doesn't do troubleshooting you guys any good at all whatsoever. Yeah, and so that's an option. Why they don't, I don't make it standard, I don't know, but that's beside the point. The thing is, this one didn't have it, so we went in there to put those labels, so we wired everything so the people would then have the labels, well, you know, point to point on the wires and stuff. Excuse me. I walked in and saw this one that had a lockout tag on it and everything else, and it was in the down position, but that unit, and it had the tag on it, and it was locked out, and locked, okay? And had my PPE on and everything else, category 2, because I had my cotton underclothes and everything else, and then I had my fire retardant suit and everything else with the gloves and of course my glasses and stuff like that together. Went there, and so I checked the line side, opened the door opened up a bit very easily, checked the line side, and then I checked the T-leads, you know, and my thinking was, okay, I know that it's live at the top, but it's live, dead at the bottom, so it's dead in between and everything else. And I sat down in front of it and everything else, and stuff like that, and I put my meter down, and I had a paintbrush that I used to, you know, dust, like I told you earlier.
Yeah.
Instead of using a rag, I used the paintbrush and just dust all the dust off and everything to get on there. And I was dusting, started to dust, and of course, on the size 6 of these big buckets and everything else, from the load side of the breaker, they actually use like a 1/4 inch thick bus by 1 inch wide, and you know it goes all the way to the top of the contactors. So you have, and it's spaced maybe about 1 inch apart, but that's the minimum requirement on 480. So anyway, as I was dusting the wiring, it occurred to me, and I saw that bus there, and anytime I see bus, I get a little reaction there. It's like, okay, is this dead? And it occurred to me that I hadn't checked that to see if it was live. Well, I had the paintbrush in my hand, and when I bent down to get my meter, I shorted between two phases. And all of a sudden, zap! You heard the big old kapow, not the zap, it was more the kapow, 480s kapow versus the medium voltage, zap, But anyway, when that happened, the operators came out running and everything else, and they were, what happened and stuff like that. This thing was live. And they said, oh yeah, we knew that. And they failed to tell us when we went in there and asked them, hey, we're going to come over. Everything okay? Yeah, everything's fine. Everything is locked out and this is okay. I don't blame the operator. I blame myself. Because I should have checked that before I stuck my brush or something together and not taking it for granted. That's why I said, do not trust anything that's even visually looked. What happened is that these things, if they're not adjusted properly, they could be to where you go to close the breaker, or go to the on position, and the adjustment is not right where it'll push that lever far enough so it'll turn on, or vice versa. That if it's not adjusted right when you go to turn it off, it will not turn the breaker off. It's still in that, and it's not even in the trip position, it's going from the on, and on the bigger breakers, it's a lot harder than on the smaller ones. And I'm sure you've encountered that and everything else. That's why when you use those bigger breakers, and even on the eye lines, that you go to close it, you try to close it and everything else, to open it, you feel it resists you until at the very end when it snaps over, and vice versa. When you go to close it, it takes some doing it before it snaps closed and everything else. Well, that's exactly the type of breaker that was in there, and that's exactly what was happening there. So when this thing was in the off position, it wasn't off. Well, you could see when you walked up there that it was, it was kind of binding. It wasn't, the operator or this switch was not loose or anything like that. Well, after it tripped, then it was definitely loose, because now it was like you got to go back and reset it or turn it to the off position before you can turn it back on again. But anyway, I've shared that with you just to tell you, don't trust anything until you've actually tested. That's what I was telling you yesterday. Make sure that even what you see, do not believe until you've actually tested it. Test it.
It takes you to get one warning, and
Excuse me?
it'll take you for you to get one warning, and start checking.
Right. Well, and learning, if anything else, from others' mistake that actually have lived through it, because and learn actually from people that have not lived through it. Don't take it for granted is what I'm getting at.